A millionaire saw her ex-husband, a single dad, working as a waiter. What happened next changed everything. The outdoor stage sits under hot afternoon sun. 400 people on blankets, wine glasses catching light, families sprawled across the grass. The orchestra has just finished Dvorak. Polished. Perfect. Expected. The conductor stands at the podium in a black gown that costs more than most people earn in a month. She's smiling. Controlled. She announces the next piece, a cello concerto, then pauses. "Personnel issues," she says smoothly. "They'll have to skip it." Polite disappointment ripples through the crowd. Then a man stands from the audience. He's wearing khakis and a faded button-down. Bartender clothes. He's carrying a cello case that doesn't belong to him. The crowd murmurs. Heads turn. The conductor's smile freezes. He walks onto the stage without asking permission. Her face drains white. She knows him. Everyone can see it. He sits in the empty chair, adjusts the instrument with hands that move like they've done this 10,000 times. The orchestra members glance at each other, confused. Someone in the front row, a little girl clutching a violin case, starts crying. The conductor tries to speak. Her voice cracks. This is a closed, but he's already playing. And the sound that comes from that cello doesn't belong to a man who serves drinks for a living. It's too controlled, too devastating, too perfect. The conductor is forced to lift her baton or cause a scene. Her hand trembles. The orchestra follows the cellist's lead, not hers. The audience leans forward. Something is happening that wasn't supposed to happen. Someone 3 rows back whispers, "Wait, I know that playing style." The little girl in front is sobbing now, but she's smiling. And the conductor looks like she's watching her entire carefully constructed world collapse in real time. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who was supposed to love you, stay with this story, because what happens next will restore your faith in justice. Before we begin, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, have you ever had to prove yourself to someone who should have believed in you all along? But to understand how a bartender ended up on that stage, holding a $2 million legacy in his hands, we need to go back 2 weeks, to an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, when a famous conductor walked into a hotel bar and recognized the one person she never expected to see again. The bar at the Meridian smelled like citrus and wood polish. Afternoon light filtered through tall windows, cutting soft angles across marble countertops. Daniel Ortiz worked the lunch shift with the same economy of motion he'd perfected over 7 years. Cut the lime, muddle the mint, pour the gin. His hands moved without thought. A businessman in a gray suit ordered a martini. Daniel built it clean. 3 olives, no conversation. The man didn't look at him. Most people didn't. 2 servers leaned against the service station, complaining about the weekend. One of them, Ashley, rolled her eyes at the posted schedule. "They're making us work the gala Saturday night," she said. "Like we don't have lives." The other server, Marcus, not the violinist, a different Marcus entirely, groaned. "What gala?" "Arts Foundation thing. Some big conductor is the guest of honor. Manager's been stressed all week." Daniel polished a wine glass. His hands kept moving. "You working it, Daniel?" Ashley asked. He nodded without looking up. "How long you been here now?" the businessman asked, breaking his own silence. He was a regular, tipped well, never remembered names. 7 years, Daniel said. "Solid job. Good hotel." Daniel set the glass down. "It is." The businessman left a 20 on the bar and walked away. Daniel cleared the empty glass. The lunch crowd thinned. A retired couple lingered over coffee at a corner table. The dining room fell into the slow rhythm of a Wednesday afternoon. The hotel manager, Richard, appeared near the bar. He was holding a clipboard. Always holding a clipboard. "Daniel, you're confirmed for Saturday night. 6 to close." "Understood." Richard hesitated. "The guest of honor is Elena Vasquez, the conductor. You know her work?" Daniel's hands stilled for half a breath. Then he reached for a fresh towel. "I've heard the name. She's a big deal. Foundation's really excited. We need everything perfect." "It will be." Richard nodded and disappeared back toward the kitchen. Daniel exhaled slowly. His pulse had kicked up. He forced it back down. Ashley was scrolling through her phone. "Elena Vasquez," she read aloud. "Says here she's with the Berlin Philharmonic." "Wow, that's fancy." Daniel didn't respond. He wiped down the bar in long, methodical strokes. The shift ended at 3. Daniel changed in the staff room, a narrow space with metal lockers and fluorescent lights. His locker held almost nothing: a spare shirt, deodorant, and taped to the inside of the door, a crayon drawing. 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small. The small one had curly hair and a smile that took up half her face. Across the top, in uneven letters, "My hero dad." Sophia had given it to him last week. He'd folded it carefully and kept it in his apron pocket every shift since. Now he tucked it into the pocket of his jacket, then pulled out his phone. Picking her up at 5, he texted Sophia's grandmother. The reply came immediately. "She's ready. Had a good day." Daniel closed his locker. The click of the latch echoed in the empty room. Outside, Charleston heat pressed against his skin. Tourists moved in slow clusters along the sidewalk. A horse-drawn carriage clattered past. Daniel walked among them, another face in the crowd. Anonymous. Safe. He'd built this life carefully. Brick by brick. Shift by shift. 7 years of invisible work, quiet routines, and a daughter who thought her mother was dead. And now Elena's name was on a schedule taped to the break room wall. Daniel kept walking. His heartbeat stayed steady. His face stayed calm. But his hands, the ones that used to be insured for $2 million, trembled slightly in his pockets. Saturday was 2 days away. Sophia's grandmother lived in a house that smelled like lavender and old books. The screen door creaked when Daniel pulled it open at 5:15. Sophia was already waiting on the porch steps. Backpack slung over one shoulder, her curly hair escaping its ponytail. "Dad!" She jumped up, grinning. "Guess what Mr. Rivera said?" Daniel smiled. "What did he say?" "He said, I have good instincts. For violin. He said some people just feel the music, and I'm one of them." "That's wonderful, sweetheart." Sophia bounced on her toes. "Can I show you what I learned?" Her grandmother appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was 70, soft-spoken, with Sophia's same serious eyes. "She's been talking about it all afternoon," she said. Daniel nodded. Sophia held up her left hand, fingers curved in position. "See? This is how you hold the neck. And your wrist has to stay loose, not tight. Mr. Rivera says tension ruins everything." "Smart advice," Daniel said. Sophia lowered her hand, then looked up at her grandmother. "Did you tell him?" The older woman's expression shifted. "I mentioned it." Daniel met her eyes. She gave a small, apologetic shrug. "Sophia asked about her mother again today," she said quietly. "I told her she should talk to you." Sophia was already moving toward the car, oblivious to the weight in the air. Daniel touched his mother-in-law's shoulder briefly. "It's fine," he said. "Thank you for watching her." "Daniel." Her voice dropped lower. "She's getting older. The questions won't stop." He nodded. He knew. The drive home took 12 minutes. Sophia talked the entire way about vibrato technique and bow pressure and a girl in her class who played piano. Daniel listened, responded when needed, and felt the familiar ache settle behind his ribs. Their apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen that opened into a living room, furniture from thrift stores and yard sales. But it was clean, safe, theirs. Sophia dropped her backpack by the door and sat at the kitchen table. She pulled out her homework without being asked. Daniel filled a pot with water, set it on the stove, and started chopping garlic. "Dad?" Sophia's pencil paused over her math worksheet. "Yeah? How come you don't play music? You used to hum sometimes when I was little." Daniel's hands didn't stop moving. "I'm not really musical." "But you like music, right? You always let me play my practice recordings." "I like listening to you." Sophia tilted her head, considering. Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Mr. Rivera gave me this. There's a concert Saturday, in the park. He said it's really good, and it's free, and we should go." She slid the flyer across the table. Daniel wiped his hands on a towel, picked up the paper, read the header. Charleston Arts Foundation presents An Afternoon of Classical Favorites, conducted by Elena Vasquez. The letters didn't blur. His vision stayed sharp, but his pulse kicked once, hard, before settling back into rhythm. "Can we go?" Sophia asked. "Please?" Daniel set the flyer down carefully. "Maybe. We'll see." "That means no." "It means maybe." Sophia's face fell. She didn't argue, just returned to her homework with a small sigh. Daniel turned back to the stove. The water was boiling. He added pasta, stirred it, watched the pieces swirl and separate. Dinner was quiet. Sophia talked less than usual. Daniel asked about her spelling test. She said she got a 92. He told her he was proud. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. After dishes, Sophia took her bath. Daniel heard her singing softly through the door, some melody from her lesson. The apartment settled into its evening sounds. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant murmur of traffic, the creak of old floorboards. At 8:30, Sophia appeared in the living room doorway in her pajamas, damp hair clinging to her neck. "Can you tell me about Mama?" she asked. It was the same request she'd made 100 times. Daniel patted the couch beside him. Sophia climbed up, tucking her feet beneath her. "What do you want to know?" he said. "What was she like?" Daniel spoke the words he'd memorized years ago. "She was kind. She had a beautiful smile. She loved music." "Did she love me?" "Very much." "What happened to her?" "She got sick when you were a baby. Her body couldn't fight it." Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do I look like her?" "Yes," Daniel said. "You have her eyes." Sophia leaned against his shoulder. Daniel wrapped his arm around her. She smelled like lavender soap and something sweet he couldn't name. Something that was just her. "I wish I could remember her," Sophia whispered. Daniel's throat tightened. "I know." "Do you miss her?" The lie came easily now. "Every day." Sophia yawned. Her eyelids drooped. Within minutes, her breathing deepened. Daniel sat very still, holding his daughter while she slept, staring at nothing. Eventually, he carried her to bed, tucked the blanket around her shoulders, kissed her forehead. Back in the living room, Daniel sat in the dark. The concert flyer was still on the kitchen table. He didn't need to look at it again. Elena's name was burned into his mind. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. A notification from the hotel scheduling app. Reminder, you're scheduled Saturday, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Event, Arts Foundation Gala Preparation. Daniel closed his eyes. Elena's name was everywhere suddenly, pressing in from all sides, and there was nowhere left to hide. Saturday night at the Meridian smelled like champagne and expensive perfume. The gala had started at 6. By 7:30, the private event space upstairs was packed with donors in evening wear, their laughter drifting down through the vents. A string quartet played something classical Daniel couldn't name. Foundation banners hung from the ceiling. Daniel worked the main bar downstairs. Overflow guests wandered down between speeches, ordering drinks they barely touched. He kept his head down, made martinis, poured wine, moved fast, and stayed invisible. Ashley leaned against the service station, watching the crowd. "They're really going all out for this conductor," she said. Daniel nodded. He didn't look up. "You okay? You've been quiet all night." "I'm fine." A group of board members descended the stairs, voices bright with champagne and self-importance. Daniel served them efficiently. They didn't notice him. No one ever did. Then the noise upstairs shifted. The applause grew louder. Someone was being introduced, and Elena Vasquez walked down the stairs. She wore a black gown that caught the light. Her hair was pulled back, severe and elegant. 3 people followed her, talking over each other, competing for her attention. She moved through the space like she owned it. Daniel's hands stilled on the bar towel. Elena didn't see him at first. She was listening to a man in a tuxedo, nodding at something he said. Then her gaze swept the room, landed on the bar, on him. Her expression didn't change. Not immediately. But Daniel saw the flash of recognition. Shock. Then something colder settled into her eyes. She walked to the bar. Her admirers followed like satellites. "Martini," she said. "Dry. 3 olives." Her voice was exactly as he remembered. Controlled. Precise. No warmth unless she chose to deploy it. Daniel reached for the gin. His movements were automatic. Measure. Pour. Strain. Elena watched him the entire time, studying him like a specimen under glass. He set the martini in front of her. Their eyes met. "Thank you," she said. One of her companions started talking about the foundation's fundraising goals. Elena smiled at him, said something charming. But her attention never left Daniel. The group drifted toward a table near the window. Elena stayed at the bar. She lifted her glass, took a sip. Then she leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper. "Does she know I'm alive?" Daniel's jaw locked. He said nothing. Elena's smile was thin, sharp. "Good, let's keep it that way." She picked up her drink and walked away. Rejoined her admirers. Laughed at something one of them said. She didn't look back. Daniel's hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against the bar. Forced them still. Ashley appeared beside him. "Hey, you good?" "Yeah." "You sure? You look—" "I'm fine." He turned away. Cleaned glasses that were already clean. His pulse hammered in his ears. Upstairs, the speeches resumed. Elena's voice carried through the ceiling. Clear. Commanding. She was talking about dedication, about sacrifice, about the choices artists make to pursue excellence. The crowd applauded. The sound rolled down through the building like thunder. Daniel kept working. The bar filled and emptied in waves. Guests came and went. Elena stayed upstairs. He didn't see her again. At 10, the event wound down. The string quartet packed their instruments. Donors filtered out through the lobby, still talking, still laughing. The staff started breaking down tables. Daniel finished his closing duties at 11. Wiped down the bar, restocked the coolers, locked the register. In the staff room, he changed out of his work shirt. The space was empty. Quiet. His locker stood open. Inside, tucked between his spare shirt and deodorant, was a business card. heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, Elena's manager's contact information. On the back, in handwriting, he recognized a note. She'd like to speak with you. Professional courtesy. Daniel stared at the card. His breathing stayed even. His hands stayed steady. Then he tore it in half, dropped it in the trash, closed his locker. He walked out through the service entrance. The night air was humid and still. Charleston streets were mostly empty. A few tourists lingered near the waterfront. Somewhere a car alarm wailed and went silent. Daniel walked to his truck, got in, sat behind the wheel. Elena knew where he worked. She'd seen him, spoken to him, and she'd left him a message. She wasn't going to let this go. Monday morning, Richard called Daniel into his office before the lunch shift. The room was small, windowless, smelling faintly of stale coffee and printer ink. Richard sat behind his desk, not quite meeting Daniel's eyes. "Have a seat," he said. Daniel sat. He kept his hands loose in his lap. Richard clicked his pen, clicked it again. "Look, I don't know what this is about, and I don't want to know. But corporate got a call over the weekend from a VIP guest. She raised some concerns about your professionalism." Daniel said nothing. "She mentioned a complicated personal history. Said your presence here makes her uncomfortable." Richard shifted in his chair. "Corporate asked me to move you to lunch shifts, temporarily, just until her visit to Charleston is over." Lunch shifts meant half the hours, worse tips, less money for rent, for groceries, for Sophia's violin lessons. "Understood," Daniel said. "I'm sorry. I really am. You're one of my best people." Daniel stood. "When do I start?" "Today, 11 to 6. Daniel nodded and left the office. His hands didn't shake. His breathing stayed even. He'd learned a long time ago how to take a hit without showing it. The lunch shift was slow. A handful of business people, 2 tables of tourists. Daniel made drinks, cleared glasses, and stayed out of sight. Tuesday afternoon, Elena walked into the restaurant. She was with 3 people this time. A man in an expensive suit, a woman carrying a foundation tote bag, and someone Daniel didn't recognize. They sat at a table near the window. Elena ordered sparkling water with lime. She was gracious to the server, warm to her guests, and completely ignored Daniel behind the bar. But her voice carried. "The challenge," she was saying, "is sustaining excellence over time. Some people simply can't handle the pressure. They burn out. They walk away." The man in the suit nodded. "It takes a special kind of discipline." "Exactly. Which is why we have to be so careful about who we invest in. Talent alone isn't enough. You need resilience, commitment." Elena's gaze flicked toward the bar for half a second, then back to her guests. Daniel wiped down the counter. His movements didn't change. Thursday, she came back. Different guests this time. Same routine. She stayed for 2 hours, ordered almost nothing, and talked in a voice calibrated to reach the bar without quite seeming intentional. "It's tragic when talent goes to waste because of personal instability," she said to a woman with a notepad. "I've seen it too many times. People who had everything and couldn't sustain it." The woman asked a question Daniel couldn't hear. Elena laughed lightly. "Oh, I don't like to dwell on it. But yes, I've known people who crumbled under the demands of a serious career. It's sad, really." Ashley was working the floor. She approached the bar, keeping her voice low. "That's the conductor from the gala, right?" Daniel nodded. "She's been here a lot this week. Do you know her?" "We knew each other a long time ago." "She keeps looking over here." "Does she?" Ashley studied him. "Yeah. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." But Ashley didn't look convinced. By the end of the week, Elena's visits had become routine, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, always with different people, always staying just long enough to be seen. She never spoke to Daniel directly, never acknowledged him beyond ordering drinks through the server. But the staff noticed. The regulars whispered. On Friday, a businessman Daniel had served for years leaned across the bar. "That conductor. She seems familiar with the place." Daniel poured his usual scotch. "She's been here a few times." "Seems like she knows you." "We crossed paths years ago. Different lives." The man accepted this and didn't press. But Daniel saw the curiosity in his eyes. Saturday, Daniel worked a double, 11 to 9. Elena didn't come in. He told himself that should have been a relief. It wasn't. The not knowing was worse. Waiting for the next move, the next comment, the next way she'd find to remind him that she could reach into his carefully built life and pull pieces out whenever she wanted. He got home after 10. The apartment was dark, except for the lamp Sophia always left on in the living room. Daniel locked the door behind him, set his keys on the counter. Sophia appeared in the hallway in her pajamas. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. "You're late," she said. "Long shift." She came closer, tilting her head. "You look tired." "I'm okay." "You've been really quiet this week, like something's wrong." Daniel forced a smile, reached out and smoothed her hair. "Just tired, sweetheart. Work's been busy." Sophia studied his face, the way she always did when she thought he wasn't telling the whole truth. But she was 9. She couldn't name what she saw. "Okay," she said finally. "Go back to bed. School tomorrow." She hugged him quickly and padded back down the hall. Her door clicked shut. Daniel stood alone in the kitchen. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. He thought about Elena's voice carrying across the restaurant, about the way she performed for her audience, about the careful, surgical precision with which she dismantled his piece. He'd thought silence would protect them. That invisibility was safety. But Elena had found him, and she wasn't going to let go. 10 days after the gala, Elena walked into the Meridian with a woman carrying a leather notebook. They took seats at the bar instead of a table. Elena smiled at Daniel like they'd never met. "2 sparkling waters, please. And menus." The woman with the notebook was younger, mid-30s, with sharp eyes and a recording app already open on her phone. She set the phone on the bar between them. "Thank you so much for making time," the woman said. "I'm Caitlin Rhodes, Arts and Culture for the Charleston Post." "Of course," Elena said. "I love supporting local media." Daniel set down their waters. His hands were steady. He moved to the other end of the bar, started prepping garnishes for the dinner shift. Close enough to hear, too far to interrupt. Caitlin asked about the upcoming concert. Elena talked about programming choices, about bringing classical music to broader audiences. Her voice was warm, enthusiastic. The performance of someone who loved what they did. "You've had an incredible career," Caitlin said, "but I imagine it required sacrifices." Elena paused, took a sip of water. "Enormous sacrifices. This life demands everything." "Can you talk about that?" Another pause. Longer this time. Elena's expression shifted into something softer, more vulnerable. Daniel recognized the look. She used to practice it in the mirror. "I don't usually discuss my personal life," Elena said quietly. "But yes, I was married once, briefly, to a very talented cellist." Caitlin leaned forward. "What happened?" "We had a daughter together. She was born premature. It was terrifying. Months in the NICU. I thought we'd lose her. Daniel's knife stilled on the cutting board. But she survived, Elena continued. And I was so grateful. I wanted to build a life for her. But my husband couldn't cope with the demands of parenthood. He emotionally abandoned us both. The pressure of balancing family and career, it broke him. Caitlin was writing notes. That must have been incredibly difficult. It was. I tried to hold us together. But eventually I had to make a choice. I took a position in Europe. I raised our daughter alone. The lunch crowd hummed around them. Silverware on plates, low conversations, normal sounds. Is she with you now? Caitlin asked. Elena's voice dropped. She died. When she was 4. An illness. Very sudden. Daniel's breath caught. The lie landed like a punch. I'm so sorry, Caitlin whispered. Thank you. It's been many years. But seeing my ex-husband now, working here in Charleston, Elena glanced toward Daniel. Her eyes met his for half a second. It brings back painful memories of his failures, as an artist, as a father. The room kept moving. No one else heard. No one else understood what had just happened. Caitlin asked a few more questions. Elena answered graciously, steering back to the concert, to her work. Professional. Composed. After 20 minutes, they stood to leave. This was wonderful, Caitlin said. Thank you for being so open. Of course. I hope people come to the concert Saturday. They left. Daniel stood behind the bar, still holding the knife. His pulse hammered in his ears, but his hands didn't shake. He finished his prep work, served the remaining lunch customers, closed out his shift at 6. He didn't check his phone until he got home. The article was already live, posted at 4:30, shared across social media. The headline read, Conductor Elena Vasquez opens up about personal tragedy. Daniel read it once, then again. Every word Elena had said, transcribed and polished. The story of a devoted mother, a failed father, a dead child. The apartment was quiet. Sophia wasn't home yet. Her grandmother was dropping her off after her violin lesson. Daniel sat on the couch, stared at his phone. The article had already been shared 40 times. People he didn't know were commenting. So tragic. What a strong woman. Some people just aren't built for family life. At 6:45, he heard Sophia's voice in the hallway. Her grandmother said goodbye at the door. Sophia came in carrying her backpack and her teacher's iPad. Mr. Rivera let me borrow it for the weekend, she said. I wanted to look up the concert Saturday. Daniel's chest tightened. Sophia, I already did. I searched for Elena Vasquez. Sophia's voice was strange, too calm. She set the iPad on the coffee table. There's a new article. From today. She was holding a piece of paper, printed at the community center, by the look of it. The article. Every word. It says I died, Sophia said. Her hands trembled. The paper rustled. It says you abandoned me. It says she raised me in Europe, and I got sick and died when I was 4. Daniel stood. Sophia, let me explain. Is any of this true? Her voice cracked on the last word. She wasn't crying yet, but her eyes were too bright. Her jaw was locked. Did you abandon us? Did I almost die? You were in the NICU for 3 months, Daniel said quietly. You were born premature, but you survived. You're here. And her? My mom? The one you said was dead? The silence stretched. Outside, a car alarm wailed and stopped. She's alive, Daniel said. She's in Charleston. She's conducting the concert Saturday. Sophia's face crumpled. She looked down at the paper, then back up at him. Why would she say I died? Daniel had no answer that wouldn't destroy her. Does she even know I exist? Sophia's voice was barely a whisper now. Does she care about me? Daniel reached for her, but she stepped back. The paper fell from her hands. She was shaking now, her whole body trembling like something inside her had broken loose. I don't understand, she said. Why did you lie? Why did she lie? Why does everyone keep lying? And Daniel realized that silence, all these years of careful silence, had cost him more than the truth ever could have. Daniel sat beside Sophia on the couch. The printed article lay on the floor between them. Neither of them touched it. I need to tell you everything, Daniel said quietly. The truth. All of it. Sophia nodded. Her hands were folded tight in her lap. Your mother's name is Elena Vasquez. We were married. I played cello. She conducted. We met at a rehearsal when I was 23. Sophia's eyes stayed on him, listening, absorbing. When you were born, you came early, 3 months early. You were so small I could hold you in one hand. Daniel's voice caught. He steadied it. You spent 94 days in the NICU. We didn't know if you'd make it. But I did, Sophia whispered. You did. You fought. You were stronger than anyone thought possible. Sophia's fingers loosened slightly. What happened with her? Daniel took a breath. She wanted to keep working, touring, performing. I wanted to stay with you, to be there while you recovered. We argued, a lot. She said I was choosing you over my career, over her. I did. She left? She got offered a job in Berlin, with one of the best orchestras in the world. She told me to come with her, to bring you. I said no. You were still fragile, still healing. The doctors said you needed stability. Familiar faces. I couldn't take you halfway across the world. Sophia's breathing had changed. Faster, shallower. She left anyway, Daniel said. She told people in our world that I'd broken under the pressure, that I couldn't handle being a father and a musician. She never called, never sent money, never asked about you. And you told me she died. Daniel nodded. I thought it would be easier. I didn't want you growing up thinking your mother chose to leave you. I wanted to protect you from that. Sophia stared at the wall, processing. Her jaw was tight. Why would she lie now? Sophia asked. About me being dead? I don't know. Does she know I'm real? That I'm here? She knows I have a daughter. I don't know if she realizes it's you. Sophia turned to face him. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying yet. Does she care about me? The question landed like a blade. Daniel wanted to lie, wanted to say something that would soften the truth. But he'd already lied for 9 years. He couldn't do it anymore. I don't know, he said. Sophia's face crumpled. The tears came then. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the quiet, helpless crying of a child whose world had just collapsed. She folded forward, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. Daniel pulled her close. She buried her face in his shoulder. He held her while she cried, feeling every tremor, every broken breath. His own throat burned, but he didn't cry. He just held her. The apartment was silent except for Sophia's muffled sobs. The refrigerator hummed. A siren wailed in the distance and faded. Eventually, Sophia's breathing slowed. She pulled back, wiping her eyes with the heel of her hand. Were you really famous? She asked. Her voice was hoarse. Like she said in the article? I played professionally. Yes. Were you really good? Daniel hesitated, then nodded. Sophia studied his face. Like, really good? Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, can I meet her? Sophia? I just want to see her. Just once. To know what she looks like. To see if she looks like me. I don't think that's a good idea. She made her choice a long time ago. But she's here, right now, in Charleston. I know. We're still going to the concert, right? You said maybe. Daniel closed his eyes. I don't think we should. But I want to go. I want to see her. Even if it's just from far away. Even if she doesn't know I'm there. Her voice was so small, so desperate. Please, Sophia whispered. Daniel looked at his daughter, her red eyes, her trembling hands, the hope and hurt tangled together on her face. Okay, he said. We'll go. Sophia didn't smile, but she nodded. Thank you. But we stay in the back. We don't approach her. We don't make a scene. One no. Daniel stood. You should try to sleep. It's late. Sophia followed him to her room. He tucked the blanket around her shoulders like he'd done every night since she was a baby. She looked so young, so breakable. Dad, she said as he turned to leave. Yeah? I'm glad you stayed with me when I was little. I'm glad you chose me. Daniel's chest tightened. Always. Sophia curled onto her side. She reached for the concert flyer on her nightstand, held it against her chest. Good night, she whispered. Daniel left her door cracked open. The hall light spilled across her floor. He sat in the living room in the dark. The article still lay on the floor. He didn't pick it up. For 9 years, he'd protected Sophia with silence, with distance, with a carefully constructed lie that kept her safe from the truth of her mother's abandonment. And now, Elena had torn it all down in 15 minutes. In one calculated interview, she'd weaponized Sophia's existence, her death, for sympathy, for narrative, for control. Daniel's hands curled into fists, then relaxed. He'd spent 15 years learning how to absorb hits, how to take damage without flinching. But this wasn't about him anymore. Elena's cruelty had metastasized. It had infected his daughter. And Daniel realized that silence, all those years of careful, protective silence, had cost him far more than the truth ever could have. Friday morning, neither of them slept. Daniel heard Sophia moving around her room after midnight, saw the light under her door flicker on and off. He didn't sleep either, just lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the building settling around them. At 7, he made breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Sophia sat at the table in her pajamas, hair unbrushed, eyes red-rimmed. She pushed the eggs around her plate, but didn't eat. You should eat something, Daniel said quietly. I'm not hungry. He didn't push. He wasn't hungry either. At 9, Sophia got dressed for her lesson. She moved slowly, mechanically, put on jeans and a sweatshirt, pulled her hair into a ponytail. Didn't say a word. The community center was a 10-minute drive. The building was old brick, faded paint, a parking lot with cracks in the asphalt. Sophia had been taking lessons here for 6 months. It was all Daniel could afford. Marcus Rivera was waiting in the practice room. He was 70, thin and wiry, with white hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He smiled when Sophia walked in. Good morning? Sophia nodded. She took out her rented violin, checked the tuning. You okay? Marcus asked. I'm fine. But Marcus's eyes flicked to Daniel. He saw something. Daniel could tell. The lesson lasted 30 minutes. Sophia played mechanically, hitting the notes, but without any life behind them. Marcus corrected her bow hold, her posture, but his attention kept drifting back to her face. When the lesson ended, Sophia packed up her violin quickly. Can I wait in the lobby? She asked Daniel. Sure. She left without looking back. Daniel started to follow. Daniel, Marcus said, stay a minute. Daniel stopped, turned. Marcus was holding his phone. I saw an article yesterday about Elena Vasquez, the conductor. Daniel's chest tightened. It mentioned her ex-husband, a cellist. Marcus's voice was careful. It took me a minute to place the name, but I remember you. Kennedy Center, 2006. The benefit concert for music education. You played the Elgar. Daniel said nothing. The article says you abandoned your family, that your daughter died. Marcus looked toward the door Sophia had just left through. But that's not true, is it? Daniel's jaw locked. No. I didn't think so. I've taught Sophia for 6 months. That's your daughter. Very much alive. Yes. Marcus set his phone on the music stand, turned the screen toward Daniel. Elena's conducting the outdoor concert tomorrow. You know that? I know. The orchestra's already been hired. I have a friend in the ensemble. Their regular cellist called in sick this morning. The chair is open. Daniel's hands curled into fists. I'm not playing. Why not? Because I've spent 15 years building a quiet life. For Sophia. Exposing myself means exposing her. To attention. To questions. To more pain than she's already carrying. Marcus studied him. The pain is already here, Daniel. You saw her in that lesson. She's drowning. And putting her in front of a crowd of 400 people will help? Showing her who you really are might. Marcus's voice hardened. Showing her mother what she abandoned might. Daniel shook his head. I can't. Can't or won't? Both. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he walked to the corner of the room, picked up a black hardshell case. He set it on the table between them. This is my cello. Not as nice as what you used to play, but it's in tune. It's ready. Marcus, you don't have to decide now, but if you change your mind, it's yours. Marcus met his eyes. That woman lied about you, about Sophia. She told the world your daughter is dead, and tomorrow she's going to stand on that stage and be celebrated while you serve drinks, and Sophia sits in the audience wondering if her father is the failure her mother said he was. Daniel's throat burned. She knows I'm not. Does she? Or does she just hope you're not? The question landed like a blow. Marcus pushed the case toward him. Take it. Think about it. If you don't use it, bring it back Monday. Daniel looked at the case. Black, scuffed, ordinary. I remember your playing, Marcus said quietly. You were extraordinary. I watched you hold an audience of 2,000 people with a single note. You had a gift. I don't know why you walked away from it. But I know Elena Vasquez is lying, and I know your daughter deserves to see who you really are. Daniel's hands shook. He pressed them flat against his thighs. In case you change your mind, Marcus said. Daniel picked up the case. It was heavier than he remembered. The handle was worn smooth. Thank you, he said. Marcus nodded. The concert starts at 2. If you're going to do this, you'll need to be there by 1:30. Daniel carried the case out to the lobby. Sophia was sitting on a bench by the window, staring at nothing. She looked up when he approached, saw the case. What's that? A friend's cello, Mr. Rivera is lending it to me. Why? In case I need it. Sophia's eyes stayed on the case. Are you going to play tomorrow? I don't know. She nodded slowly. Didn't ask anything else. They drove home in silence. Daniel carried the cello case inside, set it by the door. Sophia went to her room without a word. Daniel stood in the living room, staring at the case. He could see his reflection in the black surface. Distorted. Unfamiliar. 15 years ago, he'd sold his cello to pay for Sophia's medical bills. He'd walked away from stages, from orchestras, from applause. He'd chosen her, and he'd never regretted it. But now, Elena had taken that choice and twisted it into something ugly, into abandonment, into failure. And Sophia was carrying the weight of that lie. Daniel sat on the couch. The case sat by the door, silent, waiting. And for the first time in 15 years, he wondered if silence had ever really protected anyone at all. Midnight came, and Sophia couldn't sleep. Daniel heard her door open, heard her footsteps in the hall. He was sitting on the couch in the dark. The cello case rested against the wall 5 feet away. Sophia appeared in the doorway. Her hair was loose, her eyes red. "Can't sleep?" Daniel asked. She shook her head, came and sat beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The apartment was silent, except for the distant hum of traffic. "Were you really as good as Mr. Rivera says?" Sophia asked quietly. Daniel looked at her. "Yes." "Like, really good? Not just okay?" "Really good." Sophia pulled her knees up to her chest. "I want to meet her tomorrow. I want her to see me, to know she lied. Sophia, I need to see her face, when she realizes I'm real." Daniel's chest tightened. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because seeing you might not change anything." She left. She chose to leave. "Knowing you're alive won't change that choice." Sophia was quiet. Then she turned to face him. Her voice was soft but steady. "You always tell me to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's scary." Daniel's breath caught. "Why won't you?" Sophia asked. The question hung between them. Daniel had no answer, no defense, no reason that didn't sound like cowardice when a 9-year-old was braver than he was. Sophia stood. "I'm going tomorrow, with or without you." She went back to her room. The door clicked shut. Daniel sat alone. The cello case watched him from across the room. He stood, walked to it, knelt down. His hands found the latches. They opened with soft clicks. Inside, the cello gleamed dull amber under the dim light. Curved body, strings, bridge, everything exactly where it should be. Daniel lifted it out. The weight was familiar. The shape fit against him like it had been waiting 15 years. He sat on the couch, positioned the instrument between his knees. His left hand found the neck. His right hand hovered over the strings. He didn't play, just held it. Let his body remember what his mind had tried to forget. The phone rang near dawn. Daniel hadn't slept. The cello was back in its case. He answered on the second ring. "Daniel," Marcus's voice. "I wanted to confirm. Concert's at 2. Elena's conducting. The chair is still empty." Daniel stared at the case. "I know. Are you coming?" "I don't know." "Sophia deserves to see you stand up. You know that." "I know." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "The choice is yours. But whatever you decide, decide for the right reasons." The line went dead. Saturday morning came pale and quiet. Daniel made eggs again. Sophia came to the table dressed in her nicest clothes, a blue dress she usually wore to school events, her hair brushed and pulled back. She ate in silence. "Why are you dressed up?" Daniel asked. "Because I'm going to meet my mother." "Sophia, you don't have to come. I'll go with Mr. Rivera. But I'm going." She stood, went to her room, came back carrying her small violin case. Daniel's stomach dropped. "Why are you bringing that?" "Because if you won't play, I will." Her voice was calm, final. "I'll walk right up to that stage and introduce myself. I'll tell everyone who I am. I'll show her I'm real." Daniel looked at his daughter. 9 years old, 70 pounds, holding a rented violin like a shield, and he realized she meant every word. "Put the violin down," he said quietly. Sophia's chin lifted. "No." "Sophia, Please. Are you going to play? Daniel stood, walked to the cello case. His hands gripped the handle. The weight settled into his palm like it had never left. Yes, he said. Sophia set down her violin case. She didn't smile, just nodded once. At 1 o'clock, they got into Daniel's truck. The cello case lay across the back seat. Daniel drove through Charleston's weekend traffic, past tourists, past restaurants, past the life he'd built one invisible day at a time. The park came into view. A stage had been set up in the open field, white and gleaming under afternoon sun. An orchestra was assembling, musicians in black, tuning instruments, adjusting stands. Audience members were already gathering. Blankets spread across grass, folding chairs, families, donors. 400 people, maybe more. Daniel parked in the distant lot. His hands gripped the steering wheel. Dad? Sophia's voice was small now, uncertain. He looked at her. She was watching him, waiting. Daniel got out, opened the back door, lifted the cello case. Its weight grounded him, steadied him. Sophia took his free hand. Her fingers were cold. They walked toward the stage. The orchestra was finishing warm-up. The crowd hummed with anticipation. Somewhere behind the stage, Elena was preparing, checking her score, adjusting her gown, unaware that the man she'd tried to erase was 50 yards away, carrying the instrument he'd sold to keep their daughter alive. Daniel gripped the cello case tighter and kept walking. The concert began at 2 o'clock sharp. Elena walked onto the stage in a flowing black gown, her hair pulled back severe and elegant. The crowd applauded. She smiled, bowed, turned to face the orchestra, lifted her baton. The musicians raised their instruments, and she began. Brahms' First, Symphony No. 1. The music filled the park, soaring over blankets and lawn chairs and families eating sandwiches in the sun. Elena conducted with absolute authority, every gesture precise, every cue commanding. She was brilliant. Daniel could see it even from the back of the crowd where he stood with the cello case. Sophia sat in the front row beside Marcus. Her small hands gripped her violin case. Her eyes never left the stage. The Brahms ended. Applause rippled through the park. Elena bowed again, turned back to the orchestra. Dvořák next. Symphony No. 9. The familiar melody washed over the audience. Children stopped running. Conversations quieted. Even the skeptics leaned forward. Daniel watched Elena command the stage like she'd been born to it. Maybe she had been. She'd never doubted her calling, never questioned whether she belonged in front of an orchestra. That certainty had been one of the things he'd loved about her once. It was also what made her capable of leaving their daughter without looking back. The Dvořák swelled toward its conclusion. The orchestra moved as one body under Elena's direction. The final notes hung in the air, then faded. The crowd erupted, standing ovation. Elena bowed deeply, smiled, gestured to the orchestra. They stood. She waited for the applause to settle, lifted her microphone. Thank you. For our final piece this afternoon, we had planned to present Elgar's Cello Concerto in E minor. Her voice carried across the park. Unfortunately, due to personnel issues, we'll have to save that for another time. Instead, Daniel started walking. He moved through the crowd. People shifted to let him pass. The cello case hung heavy in his grip. Marcus saw him first, touched Sophia's shoulder, pointed. Sophia's eyes went wide. Elena was still speaking. Instead, we'll close with... Daniel reached the front, stepped past the rope barrier, walked onto the stage. The crowd murmured, confused, curious. Elena stopped mid-sentence. Her head turned. She saw him. Her face went white. Daniel didn't ask permission. He walked to the empty cello chair, set down the case, opened it, lifted out the instrument, sat, positioned the cello between his knees. His hands found their places automatically. The orchestra members looked at each other, at Elena, at Daniel. Elena's baton trembled. Her voice was tight. "This is a closed performance. Sir, you need to—" Daniel played the first note. Elgar, Concerto in E minor. The opening phrase, slow and aching and unmistakable. The violinists recognized it immediately. The first chair raised her instrument, joined him, then the violas, the cellos. The whole string section followed Daniel's lead, instinct overriding confusion. Elena stood frozen. The orchestra was playing without her. She could stop them, make a scene, call security, or she could conduct. She lifted her baton. Daniel closed his eyes and played. 15 years of silence poured out through his hands. Every note carried weight. The weight of Sophia's first breath in the NICU, of Elena's suitcase by the door, of selling his cello to pay medical bills, of serving drinks while pretending he'd never held an instrument worth more than a car. The concerto built slowly. Grief and beauty tangled together. The melody climbed, searching for something it couldn't name. Daniel's fingers moved across the strings with the precision of muscle memory that never forgets. His bow arm controlled the dynamics with surgical exactness. In the front row, Sophia sat perfectly still. Tears ran down her face. Her hands pressed flat against her violin case. The second movement began. Faster, more urgent. The orchestra swelled around Daniel. Elena conducted mechanically, her face a mask, but her hands shook. The crowd sat transfixed. Phones came out. People filmed. No one spoke. Daniel opened his eyes, found Sophia in the front row, played for her, only for her. The third movement erupted. All the restraint of the first two movements shattered into cascading runs and powerful chords. Daniel's whole body moved with the instrument. 15 years of love and loss and sacrifice channeled into sound. The orchestra followed him fearlessly now, Elena's conducting almost irrelevant. The final phrase approached. Daniel slowed, drew out each note, made the audience wait for it. The last chord hung in the air, then silence. Absolute silence. Then the park exploded. 400 people rose to their feet. The applause was deafening, sustained. People shouted. A woman near the back screamed with joy. Sophia stood in the front row, crying openly now, her hands covering her mouth. Marcus stood, his voice cut through the noise, trained and clear. Daniel Ortiz, principal cellist, National Symphony Orchestra, youngest virtuoso of his generation. Heads turned, whispers spread. Someone near the stage shouted, "Wait! I thought you said he abandoned music." Another voice, angry. "You said your daughter died." The applause faltered. Confused murmuring replaced it. Elena stood at the podium, her baton lowered. Her face was pale, trapped. Foundation board members stood from their reserved seats, moved toward the stage. Their expressions were confused, angry. Caitlin Rhodes stood 10 rows back, phone raised, filming everything. Elena tried to speak into her microphone. It was dead, cut by someone backstage. Sophia broke through the rope barrier, ran onto the stage. Daniel set down the cello and caught her, lifted her into his arms. She buried her face in his shoulder, sobbing. The crowd's applause returned. Louder now. People understood something had happened, something important, something true. Elena tried once more to speak, found no voice, no microphone, no control. She turned and walked off the stage. No bow, no acknowledgement, just gone. The applause continued. The orchestra stood uncertainly. Then, one by one, they began clapping too. For Daniel. For the performance. For whatever truth had just broken open in front of them. Daniel held Sophia, felt her trembling against him, felt 15 years of weight lift from his shoulders. In the parking lot beyond the trees, a black car door slammed. An engine started. Elena was already gone, but Daniel was still there, still holding his daughter, still standing in the light. And the crowd wouldn't stop cheering. Sunday morning, Daniel woke to his phone buzzing. Text messages, missed calls, notifications he didn't understand. He sat up, checked the screen. 17 messages. Most from numbers he didn't recognize. The first one was from Marcus. Check the news. Caitlin did the right thing. Daniel opened his browser. The top local story stopped him cold. The truth behind the performance. Cellist Daniel Ortiz and the lie that almost destroyed him. Caitlin Rhodes had published a full retraction. The article included everything. Elena's fabricated story, the truth about Sophia, footage from the concert. Daniel's hands playing the Elgar, Sophia running to him, Elena leaving the stage. The video had been viewed 18,000 times since yesterday evening. Daniel set the phone down, walked to Sophia's room. She was still asleep, curled on her side, her hair spread across the pillow. Peaceful. He closed the door quietly. By noon, the Charleston Arts Foundation had released a statement. They were reviewing Elena Vasquez's conduct. Her remaining Charleston appearances were canceled, pending the outcome of their inquiry. By Monday morning, the story had spread beyond Charleston. Elena's tour sponsors issued a statement citing concerns about misrepresentation of personal history. Funding was suspended. The tour was over. Reports surfaced from Berlin. This wasn't the first time Elena had weaponized personal narratives for sympathy. A colleague came forward with a similar story. Then another. The foundation's inquiry expanded. Daniel read the news in his apartment. Sophia sat beside him on the couch, quiet but present. "Is she in trouble?" Sophia asked. "Yes." "Good." Daniel looked at his daughter. Her jaw was set. Her eyes were clear. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I don't know yet," Sophia said, "but I will be." Tuesday morning, Daniel returned to work for his lunch shift. Richard, the hotel manager, called him into the office before he started. "Daniel, sit down." Daniel sat. Richard looked uncomfortable, guilty. "I owe you an apology. I should never have reduced your hours based on what she said. I should have asked you directly." "It's fine." "It's not fine. I'm restoring your evening shifts, immediately. And several customers have asked for you specifically since Saturday. They saw the video." Daniel nodded. "Thank you. You're a good employee. I should have trusted that." Daniel went back to work. The bar felt different now. Customers looked at him differently. Some smiled, some nodded. One woman asked if he still played. "Sometimes," Daniel said. Wednesday afternoon, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered carefully. "Mr. Ortiz? This is Dr. Helen Park from the College of Charleston Music Department." Daniel straightened. "Yes?" "We've been looking for a cello instructor for our community outreach program. Part-time position, teaching underprivileged students. Would you be interested in discussing it?" Daniel's breath caught. "Yes, I would." Thursday, he visited the campus. The music building was old brick with tall windows. Inside, practice rooms lined the hallways. The sound of scales and arpeggios drifted through closed doors. Dr. Park was in her 50s, warm and direct. She showed him the studio. 6 cellos on stands. Music stands. A piano in the corner. We serve students who can't afford private lessons, she said. Ages 8 to 18. We're looking for someone who understands what it means to choose music even when it's hard. Daniel looked at the cellos, ran his hand along the neck of the nearest one. I'd like to do this, he said. Good. We'd like to have you. They shook hands. Daniel signed the paperwork. He'd start the following Monday, 3 afternoons a week. It wasn't much money, but it was enough. Thursday afternoon, Sophia came home from school excited. Her friends had seen the video. They asked if her dad was really the famous cellist. What did you say? Daniel asked. I said yes, because you are. She said it with pride. No hesitation, no doubt. Friday evening, Daniel brought Marcus's cello home permanently. Marcus had insisted he keep it. You need it more than I do, the old man had said. Daniel sat on the couch. Sophia sat beside him with her rented violin. He showed her the basics, how to hold the bow, how to draw a straight line across the strings. They played a simple folk melody together. Sophia made mistakes. Her bow slipped. Her notes squeaked. She laughed when she got it wrong. Tried again. Daniel corrected her gently, showed her the right position, encouraged her when she got it right. It was imperfect. It was beautiful. When they finished, Sophia set down her violin. Can I ask you something? Always. Do you miss it, playing in front of big crowds? Daniel thought about it. Sometimes, but I don't regret leaving. Because of me? Because of you. Sophia leaned against his shoulder. I'm glad you stayed. Me too. Later, after Sophia went to bed, Daniel stood in the living room. He looked at the small space, the worn furniture, the simple life he'd built, one shift at a time. He walked to the mantel, pulled a framed photo from a box in the closet. The picture was 15 years old. Daniel holding infant Sophia in the NICU. She was so small. Wires and tubes everywhere. His face was exhausted. His eyes were shadowed. But he was smiling. He'd taken that photo the day the doctor said Sophia would survive. Daniel set it on the mantel beside Sophia's crayon drawing. Side by side. Then and now. He didn't need to hide anymore. Not from Elena. Not from his past. Not from the truth of who he'd been and who he'd chosen to become. The truest measure of a life well lived wasn't the applause you earned. It wasn't the stages you stood on or the accolades you collected. It was the love you protected when everything else tried to tear it apart. And sometimes, protecting that love meant stepping into the light again. Daniel turned off the lamp. The apartment settled into quiet. Outside, Charleston moved through its evening rhythms. Distant traffic. Voices on the street. The normal sounds of a city at rest. Daniel stood in the dark for a moment. Then he went to bed. Tomorrow he'd wake up, make breakfast, take Sophia to school, go to work, come home. And on Monday, he'd start teaching. It was a small life, a quiet life. But it was his, and it was enough.